Hi, all. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. And I have a great show for you today. I would say, the ultimate elite when it comes to royal commentary and truly insiders. This week, helping me tackle all the biggest headlines is world renowned royal author Hugo Vickers and former press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III, the remarkable Dickie Arbiter. Thank you so much to the both of you for being here, my dream team. Hugo, you have a lot of experience in Hollywood. Talk to me about this beautiful trailer we saw from Amazon Prime Video about King Charles. What was your first impression when you watched this trailer? It's called Finding Harmony, A King's Vision. And do you think, from a PR standpoint, this is a good move for King Charles?
No, I certainly do. I think it's a very good move for him, and it's of course and he will be very interested in how it is received because he's been talking about climate change and all those issues for decades now, as of course did his father. And I thought it looked very professional. I'd be encouraged to watch it. I shall be interested. It comes out on the 6th of February, as you know. It's got Kate Winslet. It's got the King watching, himself talking at different phases of his life, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it. Of course, it's, as you know, a huge uphill battle to get anyone to really confront the huge issues that climate change involves, and I think he's right to do everything he possibly can to highlight those issues.
Dickie, you were around so there are all of these images and videos of King Charles in his younger years starting this conversation, pursuing this pretty tough venture because the headlines at the time were Prince Charles talks to his plants. You saw that real passion. You saw how meaningful this cause was to him and how much it excited him. So when you sit back and see a program like this come to fruition, are you then in turn excited for him because you know that this is a win in his favor?
I'm very excited for him. And you mentioned passion. Yes, he's been passionate about it for years, as Hugo said, for decades. I remember before I joined the palace in '88, I interviewed him. It was around about 1980. He had just inaugurated a bottle bank at Buckingham Palace. Now, it's a good thing to have a bottle bank. It was a large skip. Buckingham Palace does a lot of entertaining, so a lot of wine is drunk, a lot of things coming out of bottles is drunk. And we did this interview by this bottle bank. And I said to him, what has initiated this? He said, well, we have all these bottles in the past. They've all been thrown away. But now you can recycle bottles. They get melted down. They get made into new bottles. They get made into jars. They get made into fiberglass for insulation and for making motor vehicles. So seeing this coming as it does, and he's chosen the right platform, Amazon, because that is going to get a huge audience. And I'm very excited for him. I'm very excited to watch it. I think Kate Winslet is a good choice. She's not only a Brit, but she has a good voice as well to be voicing over this documentary.
Yeah, and she's an ambassador for the King's Foundation or the King's Trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so um, I'm going to be naughty here for a minute, and I apologize. I noticed that there's only one son featured in this trailer. Perhaps throughout the entire film, we might see the presence of both. But as they talk about legacy and as they talk about in the trailer how important it is to pass this passion on to other people in your family, we get a very sweet video of King Charles, and I'd say Prince William's 6 or 7 years old. He's a young little fellow there. Hugo, does the absence of Harry in the trailer mean anything to you?
Not at all, because Prince William is a working royal and the other one isn't.
Mm.
So let's focus on him. He's the one who's going to become king eventually, and the line will go down through him. I think we've had a set. Well, I expect we'll be talking a bit about the other one later on. But he's been in the news, as you know, these last few days, but doing contrary things. So no, I mean, you can't have it every way. I mean, let's keep with the king and Prince William. I think that's the right thing to do.
Can I just jump in here, just adding to what Hugo said, that William's actually taken up the mantle of environment and climate change.
Yeah.
Great silence from California.
Mm.
But William certainly is carrying on the work of his father, carrying on the work of his grandfather, because as Hugo said earlier, Prince Philip talked about climate change and about the environment. I remember very well in the mid-50s, and people sort of scratched their heads and said, what's this guy talking about? It just didn't mean anything. And Charles took it over in the late 70s. William's taking an initiative in the noughties. So, and probably George will in the fullness of time. So it's good that Charles has included William, because he's doing very much for the environment, for climate change. Look at his Earthshot Prize. That's what it's all about.
I saw today, and I apologize for not remembering the venue, but Prince William was working with an Earthshot winner today about how to keep plastics out of the ocean. And that's so important to me because I'm a naturalist and I go whale watching and I take little kids out to learn about dolphins and whales. And the amount of plastics they find in sea lions' tummies and seals' tummies out here, and I imagine dolphins too, because we're so irresponsible when it comes to taking care of our oceans on the West Coast. It would break your heart to see some of the stuff that they pull out of these sea lions and dolphins. So I was excited to see Prince William doing that today, because that's something that I'm passionate about as well. Prince William, again, he's another one that I've been pleasantly surprised with when it comes to his passion about not only the environment, but homelessness too. Hugo, we're getting really unique access to them lately in the last few years in the form of these documentaries. Queen Camilla talking about domestic violence, Prince William talking about his homeless initiatives. We have multiple documentaries coming out from King Charles between this Amazon Prime documentary and a Netflix documentary he's doing with Idris Elba about the King's Foundation and how Idris Elba came up through the Prince's Trust and how it changed his life. If you throw it back to the PBS special being shoved in a vault, or the BBC special being shoved in a vault, I apologize, the BBC special, and Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth never wanting the world to see them barbecuing ever again. It is a lot of fun to see so much of the royal family and in such a strategic way, to where we're learning a little bit more about them, but really their mission is to get these important causes out there.
Well, I think it's it's moving with the times, really. I mean, this is the way forward: podcasts and documentaries and the issues of the day that need to be discussed. I mean, I personally thought I watched the Royal Family film when it came out, and actually, I expect Dickie's probably like me, has been able to see it again fairly recently. It popped up on YouTube, and I actually suggested that they should re-release it, because when you had the idiotic Netflix series The Crown, at least you saw the real thing. You saw them actually really engaging with each other, and I didn't see what was any harm in it. But nobody ever listens to me, so I didn't win that one. But anyway, you see what I mean. But at the time, that was very successful, and I think they had to do it. They had to sort of move with the times, and this is a step, several steps further, if you like, so that to get these messages out. I mean, that is one thing. People will watch them, they will listen to them. People are interested in what Prince William has to say. They are interested in what the King has to say. He is interested in saying it, and so it's the perfect match.
It's interesting that what you say there, Hugo, because the 1969 film about the royal family, it was good for its day, because in the 60s, the royal family were sort of fairly boring, and people sort of scratch their heads. What do they do? So the plan was to make this documentary, show the royal family at work and at play, and people got a better understanding that, yeah, they do things that we do. I mean, you don't barbecue in a suit, which is what they do, but they do the sort of things that we do. So it was good for its day. But if you try and produce something like that today, you'd get laughed at. But now what you've got today is documentaries being made about climate change, about the environment, about animal welfare. They're going onto platforms that have a mass audience. The very domestic broadcasters that were approached years ago to make these things, they turned their nose up because they thought they wouldn't get an audience. It's all about ratings. and they didn't think they'd get an audience, and they were too costly, they said, to make. So they didn't make them. So now the royal household, they're going out to platforms like Amazon, to Netflix, to Apple TV. Look at that William interview with Eugene Levy on Apple TV. It just shows you that they are forward thinking. We're pushing back on the domestic broadcasters. We're getting out there into the wide world, because it's the world that is going to change things, not domestically.
Dickie, I want to stick with you for just 1 second, because, you said something very important. I remember Diana saying that she was fighting to do all of these documentaries or programs about the charities she was passionate about, and she was getting a lot of pushback on that. And there was at one point, she was lying to Patrick Jepson, saying, I'm working with the BBC on a documentary about charities, but in reality, it was with Martin Bashir. We do understand that there's pushback when it comes to charity docuseries or documentaries, because there's not a lot of sexiness attached to that. But it takes the skill of royal handlers to make a good product that involves the royal family. Because if you look at Heart of Invictus, because Harry and Meghan had Hollywood people in their ear saying, well, no, you have to do it this way, or even Polo, where they throw in all of this random naughty scandal, it cheapened it, it ruined it, and
they bombed.
And they lost credibility. But because the royal family is surrounded by these people that just know the game, and they know how to include the royal family without cheapening the brand or weakening their credibility, they are producing really good content. When you watch Queen Camilla talk about domestic violence, do you feel that way too? Like she has the right people around her to help her navigate something as sensitive as this?
They do have the right people around them. And I like to think when I was there, we were the right people as well. But the problem is, by comparison today you've got platforms out there. You've got Apple TV, you've got Netflix, you've got Amazon, you name it, you've got it. In my day, all we had was BBC, ITV and Sky. And if they weren't interested, you had no hope of getting anything on. Now, a prime example of that is during the restoration of Windsor Castle, one of the broadcasters said, we want to follow the restoration through its 5 years. We want to do a documentary. We want to do documentaries during the restoration to show the progress. And they started filming on a weekly basis the restoration. After 2 months, they said, no, this is going to be too expensive. And they junked it.
Ugh.
So we then approached ITV. They weren't interested either. We approached Sky. They weren't interested either. We didn't have the luxury of the platforms you have today. So we filmed it in-house. We had a professional broadcaster to come in on a freelance basis to film the restoration on a weekly basis. There are cans upon cans of footage of the restoration, which took place over 5 years. At the end of the day, we had to get Prince Edward with his Ardent Company to make it. And he did make it. And he made quite a good job because he had the access to the archive stuff. He had access to the family. And what we ended up with was a documentary on ITV, and it actually worked. But we had to work for 5 years to get somebody to broadcast it.
And you had to pivot a lot. You had to be very creative.
We had to be creative, but today you click your fingers and you've got all these platforms beating a path to the doorway of Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace saying, yeah, we'll make it.
I remember going to the press conference when the restoration of the castle was finished, and it was announced that it had been done within the budget, within the time. The press was so disappointed. There was nothing they could say anything about, except perhaps that you should have done it differently, which thank goodness they didn't. It was fascinating.
Hugo, were you there when we actually did the press viewing of the finished product? When
Yes.
I opened the doors to the St. George's Hall, and there was a stunned silence because they didn't actually believe what they were seeing.
Absolutely, and I also walked around on the ceiling of the grand reception room and various things because it was kindly invited about twice, I think, to see the work in progress, and everybody was so happy because they were creating. There were as you know, better than me. There were trays of fleur-de-lis and rosettes and things. People were sticking them up on the plaster, and then man would come with a scalpel and just tweak it a little bit. And they were all so happy because it was absolutely brilliant. And, you know, you can't really see it from ground level, but you know it's there. Fabulous, wonderful. The whole thing was a fantastic production.
I love Windsor. It's my favorite place in the world. All right. Well, just to wrap up this topic, Finding Harmony, A King's Vision, as Hugo said, February 6, 2026, it's going to premiere internationally on Amazon Prime Video. So if you are a subscriber to that, and I am, let me tell you, that I am a geriatric in that way. I find all my favorite 90s Richard Gere movies, everything I need on Amazon Prime. So this is perfect for me. Let's talk about some sweet visuals we got this week from the Prince and Princess of Wales. They tried their hands at curling while on their latest visit to Scotland. They met Team GB and Paralympics GB players ahead of the Winter Olympics Games in Italy next month. Curling, apparently, this was new to me, traces its roots back to the 16th century in Scotland and has become one of Team GB and Paralympic GB's most successful winter sports, earning 6 Olympic medals and 2 Paralympic medals to date. One of my favorite quotes from one of the individuals that they engaged with of William and Catherine was, they said they would be watching the games, which means a lot to us. You know, kindness, Dickie, such a huge impact with just a sentence like that. Like, we are invested in you. We'll be at home watching with the kids. That person walked away feeling truly touched by the Prince and Princess of Wales. That's that word of mouth we talk about in marketing. That's that, first of all, it's an authenticity you can't fake. But what beautiful ambassadors the royal family have in Prince William and Catherine.
Kindness costs absolutely nothing. And when they go into something like they did a few days ago to watch curling, they went into it with their eyes wide open. They're always have-a-go merchants. They always want to have a go. And these curling stones are not light. They're very heavy. I've done it. And it's not, yeah, I used to be an ice skater. So
that would explain that, yes.
Yeah, that explains all. But they are heavy, and just let it go the wrong way and it goes off in a direction you don't want it to go. So it's a very exacting sport. The fact that William and Catherine had a go as well, I think is marvelous. They had a little bit of an aid to stop them slipping or falling over. But it is an interesting sport. It is a sport that we in the United Kingdom do incredibly well. Scots are particularly good at it because they invented it. But we do it well. We get medals for it. And we're a force to be reckoned with. And the fact that William and Catherine are behind it and behind the players can only be good for morale and good for the team.
Hugo, Catherine was sick. You know, around this time last year, we were finally feeling a little bit of relief knowing that she was in remission. But we were still concerned, and she very much so was trying to manage our expectations about how often we would see her and what exactly she would be up to. And now we're getting those visuals again that we used to get years ago, where she is playful and she is just full of sunshine, and she was born for this role. It's so nice to see her back out there, right?
Yes, and you're right. I mean, we see her a lot, and she's always doing things, and curling. I hadn't thought about curling for many years. I seem to remember watching it once, and that you kind of brush in front of the thing, don't you?
Brush it. Yes, you brush all the loose snow away.
Exactly.
So it across the ice perfectly.
You try to get it across the ice. I mean, fantastic, and they highlight that. What I was thinking, which is so interesting, was that, funnily enough, when Prince Charles, as he was, if he went and did some sort of, I don't know whether it's rafting or some sort of gimmicky thing, or he put on a funny hat or something, it always looked a little bit staged. Whereas, funnily enough, William and Catherine, whenever they started it, when they were racing in Canada together and all sorts of things, maybe it takes another generation to be able to do these things and make it look natural. Would you agree?
I think the key to it is that they're always in casual clothes when they go to these things.
Yeah.
Charles was always in a suit and tie.
Yes.
So it did look a bit strange.
But I have had people say to me that Prince William, this is not my testimony. I'm just repeating what I've heard for conversational purposes. But I have heard people say to me that Catherine dresses so nice when they go out. And let's not forget, such higher expectations. People tear apart her hair. Is it a wig? Highlights, a television meltdown, an internet meltdown over Catherine highlighting her hair, which turned out to be natural highlights from just being out in the sunshine. Catherine always dresses so sharp and so nice, and Prince William is a little more casual. And some have suggested to me that perhaps that's why people are more likely or more willing to talk about Catherine, because Prince William looks too dressed down. Does anyone have an opinion about that?
No, I think they complement each other in the way they dress. Look, girls always like to look lovely when they go out. Look at you now. I mean, we're looking very casual, and you're looking very elegant. You haven't got my tie on, but I'll let that slip for today.
Hold on. Got it right here. I got it right here.
Right. Okay. But no, I think girls, ladies, always like to look pretty, and good on Catherine. She doesn't have to try very hard. She could look good in a black bin bag. And William compliments her in the way that he dresses. And I think it's right when they go to something like curling that he does dress down. But you can dress down and dress down. And some people look good and other people don't. William looks good.
Hugo, do you agree that Catherine has a lot of unfortunate pressure on her when she's seen out and about? And I mean, especially when she's getting physical, she's got to consider that before she walks out of the house that day.
But that's always what happens with women, isn't it? I mean, it happened. I think we've talked about this before with Margaret Thatcher, that a male politician didn't have to worry about how he looked, particularly stuck on a suit and tie, and she had to have her hair done and what kind of colour was she going to be wearing and so forth. And I think actually with the royal family, it's always the women, the ladies of the royal house, that people want to look at, isn't it?
A proper New Year reset isn't about extremes. It's about showing up as your best self every day. Beam is a company proudly founded in America, run by people who share our values, and they've built products that help you keep the promises you make to yourself, the promises that actually matter. Beam's best-selling Dream Powder is a healthy nighttime blend packed with proven ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all-natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and melatonin. It's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. No groggy hangover. The sea salt caramel flavor, absolute heaven, like indulgent hot cocoa without the guilt. Dream is made right here in America, no shortcuts. Founders guided by integrity and a strong work ethic. Beam has transformed over 28 million nights of sleep. So if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Go to shopbeam.com/Kinsey. Use code Kinsey for up to 40% off. That's just $39 with my code $1.25 per night. Shopbeam.com/Kinsey today. Let's talk about, do you mind if we transition to Prince Harry in London?
If you must.
Do it.
Well, Dickie, I've seen some of your commentary on this, so I'm ready to see that fire in your eyes again. All right, let's talk about Prince Harry, who is suing the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday for privacy concerns. I loved both of your opinions on this, but based on Wednesday's testimony, Dickie, was there any tangible evidence, or was it like Harry's intuition the entire time? I just kept reading Harry saying, I don't have any friends that would leak. I have no friends that would leak. You had to be hacking my voicemail. You had to be invading my privacy, but I did not hear or see any tangible proof to his claims that...
Well, I didn't either, and I think it's an element of entitlement. You know, Harry said in a witness statement that he's motivated by truth, by justice, and accountability. Now, I can take justice and accountability, that's fine. But when you talk about truth, what are you talking about? His truth or the real truth? Because you go back to Oprah 2021, you go back to Netflix, 6 hours of it.
Fair.
which was it truth? It was their truth, but it wasn't the real truth. Recollections may vary is the famous phrase that comes to mind. And then you had over 500 pages of spare. Was that truth? Well, it was his truth, but was it the truth?
And some was literally not true. Some you were not at Eton and you did not get a call alone by yourself to discover that your great grandmother had passed away.
No, you were on the slope skiing in Closters.
Thank you. Yeah. So that was actually historically inaccurate. Hugo, it's so interesting to me to hear Harry refuse the idea that people around him could potentially be leaking stories about him when he sat down for an entire Netflix series where he points the blame at his family and the institution for leaking stories about him and his wife. He is not a consistent individual, and he's also not a very sympathetic character. So I'd like you to react to that. I'd like to know if you agree or disagree. And I'd also like to know if you saw any tangible evidence on Wednesday.
No, I didn't. I think the whole thing's very unfortunate, and it's usually very unwise to get mixed up in these sort of cases. And, he had to be ticked off by the judge because he didn't answer the questions. He was trying to give his opinions. He was told, you're doing what various witnesses try to influence the court and so forth. He comes in. I mean, he was wearing a suit and tie, wasn't he? He put a tie on for the occasion.
He's lost a lot of hair.
I'm sorry?
He's lost a lot of hair.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's there again. That's what people were writing about. I mean, about the hair I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I think sometimes it's a shame to get involved in this sort of litigation, and I think sometimes they get the bit between the teeth and they think they can do it, and they get advised, and in the end, it's always just the lawyers who really come out of this sort of thing well. At the end,
they're laughing all the way to the bank, aren't they?
They certainly are.
It does feel, in my opinion, like Elton John and Meghan Markle were some of the biggest instigators in this particular case. Dickie, I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for all of these headlines about Harry getting emotional on the stand, about Princess Diana and Meghan Markle. That is completely unrelated to this case. It's completely unrelated to the timeline that we're dealing with. The loss of Harry's mother and how Meghan Markle feels today is irrelevant when it comes to what Harry is pursuing in the High Court.
But what he's pursuing in the High Court all happened allegedly before he met Meghan. Yep. So her entry into it is irrelevant. But he's going to have a go, as Hugo rightly said. He was making arguments, he was making statements in court, and the judge had not admonished him, quite rightly, answer the questions. You're not here to make statements. So where this is going to lead, I really don't know. As Hugo says, the only people that are going to win are the barristers. There might be something for Harry. This is costing a lot of money. I think I saw a figure the other day that so far it's cost something like just under £40 million. That's a lot of money for what's going to come out of it. And the Daily Mail newspapers, they are digging their heels in. Paul Dacre said some years ago, we did not hack, we did not put bugs. And I've known Paul a number of years, and I'm inclined to believe him.
And we know Katie Nicholl. We know Katie Nicholl, and Katie Nicholl is a good girl. Katie and I know some of her sources too. Katie Nicholl is a good girl, and the way that Harry tried to dismiss her being around at that time, on the stand, is so silly. The way he completely dismisses Rebecca English, and within minutes, Twitter is filled of images of Harry giving Rebecca English a cuddle on a polo field to prove that there was this friendly relationship. It's insulting.
It is insulting. I think Hugo will agree. In terms of Associated Newspapers, it's good old-fashioned journalism. The other newspapers that were sort of fined and had to pay heavily, well, their practices were very suspect. What do you think, Hugo?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the whole thing's chaotic, really. That's what I think.
Hugo, you mentioned the judge having to correct Prince Harry throughout his testimony. When a judge has to repeatedly tell you to stop arguing with counsel and simply answer the question, does it not suggest to you a constant 24/7 litigation mindset has become the norm in Harry and Meghan's home? It's either that or he's watched too many episodes of Suits. But the fact that he would be so aggressive versus doing as he's told says to me that that's a typical Tuesday for him.
Well, I think he likes to get his story out, and I suppose if he's getting a lot of publicity in the courtroom, he just wants to take that opportunity to say more things. I mean, he's turned himself into a victim. I mean, we've again spoken about this before. Invictus Games, brilliant arrangement where they tell the wounded soldiers that there's more for you in life, and you don't have to be a victim, and you can get on with it. And it's been inspired by the biggest victim of all time. He's turned himself into a victim. I mean, he's always complaining about everything. He's not a happy man. That's the whole point. I mean, and whatever happens, he's going to go back to Montecito probably, in a rage. That's probably the most likely thing to happen.
Or fearful out of his mind because his current wife wants to know why he spent so much time on the stand talking about his ex-girlfriends. Dickie, there was a point in the testimony where Harry subtly mentions the British royal family. He says he was conditioned by the never complain, never explain policy, and he felt he had no alternative but to accept that. Yet, somewhat of a contradiction, a few minutes later, he actually acknowledges that complaining often makes matters worse. Does he realize that he does this like on a regular basis, like talk out of both sides?
I don't think he hasn't got the brains to sort of formulate a sensible conversation and to keep the continuity of it going. It's quite a good mantra: never explain, never complain, never complain, never explain. If you look at the rest of the family, when you think about what they have had to endure, Camilla, for example, at the time of the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, it was vitriolic on social media. It was vitriolic everywhere, even in the sort of the normal press, normal newspapers. What did she do? She didn't complain. She just kept her head down, kept going on with her life as normal. And today, they're all praising her. And Harry could learn a lesson from her. And quite frankly, never explain, never complain. It does actually work because it creates a good atmosphere around people. Yes, you can feel aggrieved inwardly, but if you start banging on about it, people will start taking umbrage at what you're saying. Look, here we are talking about him. We're not talking about him in good light because he's complaining. We are sort of really rubbishing what he is saying. And he could learn a lesson or two from the rest of the family.
Well, he does never complain, never explain when it's convenient to him, because African Parks Charity has been under a microscope for a while now for some of the things that their rangers are accused of doing. And Harry stays pretty quiet about that subject when a lot of people would like to hear from him and be assured that he's going to change the direction of that charity. So only when it's convenient to him does Harry never complain, never explain. Hugo, Harry argued that reporting on his romantic relationships pre-Meghan Markle was not in the public interest. Do you agree that that's debatable, given that he continues to hold a place in the line of succession and benefits from that position?
Well, that's very interesting. I do always think he had a problem in that respect because he had one or two, as far as I can see, extremely nice girlfriends, and they were put off, I think, by the amount of publicity they got. I mean, I think Chelsea Davy was a lovely girl. Cressida Bonus, the only one I've sort of met when she was a little girl. I know her mother. And, actually, to be quite honest, he'd be better off with either of them.
Yeah.
And so if it is the case that they were genuinely so fed up with the sort of intrusion and pressure that came on them, I think that is very sad, actually. And look what it led to.
Well, Dickie made this point earlier on Julia Hartley Brewer's show, and I think that it's fair. Harry talked about how the tabloids commercialized him and almost says that basically they had to go find stories through voicemails and illegal ways because he was keeping them afloat. They didn't put you in the Nazi costume. They didn't put you at Courtney Cox's house consuming chocolate mushrooms. They didn't put you at whatever ayahuasca retreat that you talk about in your book.
They didn't put you playing naked billiards either.
Yeah, we didn't see your wang, thanks to the Daily Mail. That was all on you. He did a lot of stuff to attract negative attention, which just heightens public interest in you and sells newspapers. Dickie, do you want to react to that?
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier today, that if you're going to go clubbing at night and sort of walk out of the club at 3 o'clock in the morning, somewhat inebriated, then a photographer's there and you land a punch on him, you are going to get attention. And it's no good complaining about the media attention when he's creating it himself by appearing on Oprah, appearing in 6 hours of Netflix, and writing a 500-page book. You can't have it every which way. You either do it the right way or you don't do it at all. But don't start complaining that the media are having a go at you when you're actually producing the material that they're using.
Hugo, Harry concluded his testimony by telling the court that his life has been open season. And again, he used the word commercialized, saying it's been this way since he was a teenager. Do you think that that's an odd statement coming from a man married to a woman that posts barely their photos of children to promote her jam?
Well, yes, I do. And I mean, when he was a member of the royal family, working member of the royal family, he was to some extent protected by the system, which of course later on, the whole idea, I thought, I mean, we were all told was that he wanted to get out of all this and he wanted to go off and seemingly lead a private life. Isn't that what we were told?
Mm-hmm.
What's happened since? It's been a massive thing. He's on the top of a bus with somebody chatting away. He's doing all these different things.
Paying in a random person's house in Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so it goes on inevitably. And again, of course, going back to Spare, we talked about the mistakes in it. Of course, he didn't actually write that book. It was ghosted, and he didn't bother to tell his ghost when the things were wrong. I mean, I reviewed the book and I listed many, many things that were completely inaccurate, including there's a scene in Frogmore, and he obviously thought that Frogmore was like Hampstead Cemetery with great tomb houses. I mean, as you know, Dickie, all the graves are flat in Frogmore, literally.
Yeah.
Just one small detail. But I mean, like endlessly there were things like that. And if you read J.R. Moringa's book, The Tender Bar, you will see that, he has had a dysfunctional relationship with his father. And as in a novel, there's a scene where he's being knocked over in a bar and he has all these thoughts as he's falling down. And Moringa actually said in an article in the New Yorker, your autobiography is not the story of your life. It's the story of a number of incidents which will interest the general reader. And so I think all that stuff about Prince William bashing him up and all that stuff is probably just made up. Who knows?
Well, I didn't appreciate when he commented on Prince William's hairline, and here we are today talking about his unfortunate hairline. So karma is a you-know-what, gentlemen. Speaking of karma, let's talk about Meghan Markle's show getting canceled on Netflix. These numbers are not great. We were talking about streaming and how this is the new world we're living in and how important it is. Well, Meghan put herself out there and the world said, please stop. We don't want it. It received dismal ratings, according to the streamer's latest engagement report. Her holiday celebration failed to reach Netflix's top 1,000. It ranked 1,022. And according to the streamer's engagement report, it had 2.4 million views. That was a December 3rd release. I'm hearing that the suits at Netflix said, we'll wait and see how the holiday special goes. Literally the day the holiday special drops, which I already had an issue with that date because it was the same week that the Princess of Wales was doing her carol concert, and I felt like that was intentional. Her father goes into the hospital, has to have an emergency leg amputation. It's horrible. This woman is trying to sell us this family-less holiday special, and there's her father on the Daily Mail begging her to contact him because, you know, he's scared for his life and he's losing limbs. And it just, what a you know what show. The other numbers we could get into, but they're dismal as well. Not an impressive show. Dickie, I think I've heard you predict this on numerous occasions that
we did predict it. And quite frankly, when Netflix had more than 300 million subscribers and the number of people that clicked into her show was less than 1%, that says a lot about the viewership. And it says a lot about the show. I mean, really, who is interested? You get a lot of so-called friends and a hairdresser and a makeup artist all giggling sillily about, you know, sort of an oohing and ahhing how marvelous she is, dropping sprinkles of petals on food or teaching us how to pack a suitcase. It really is absolutely, it's rubbish. And unfortunately, I did watch it because that's part of the job. You can't talk about it unless you've watched it. And I did watch it. I watched it on speed fast forward.
A
but I got the gist
masochist.
of it. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, there's a masochist and masochism, and I watched it sort of fast forward. So yeah. I sort of cut down on the masochism. But I'm not surprised. Netflix had probably realized a long time ago that they overspent. They got their series about Harry, Meghan, and the family. That might have done well, but they got Polo, which bombed, as you said earlier. They got, what else did they get?
Live to Lead. They canceled Pearl before it was even made. What happened to Meet Me at the Lake? We're waiting for the wedding date. Yeah, I think that Harry and Meghan bit off more than they could chew here.
It wasn't money well spent.
Hugo, I'm under the impression that had Meghan and Harry not done Oprah Winfrey, Spare had not been vicious, and Meghan started her reintroduction to the world with this program, we might have been more supportive of her ambition. But because her reintroduction to the world after stepping away from the royal family was so heavy, so negative, and so victimhood focused, that we just didn't have the energy to care about what she wanted to do.
No, I think she blew it with the Oprah Winfrey interview. I mean, for me, to be quite honest, she began to blow it when she refused to tell us who the godparents of Archie were. I mean, I couldn't care less who they are, to be quite honest with you, but I don't like it being denied me. You know, why shouldn't we be told? You know, and so I thought, well, there's something very odd going on here.
So are you, but would you say that you were suspicious immediately when Archie was born, because that's when she started to be dishonest? We found out she was in labor hours after she was home at
it was 6 hours. It was 6 hours after Archie was born that we were told she was in labor, and she was already back home.
Well, I mean, I don't know much about people giving birth, but most women, I think, go into labor first. Am I not right? And then they give birth later on. You know, so that was bad. But actually, of course, there were many other things which were bad. Even the wedding was bad. I mean, some of the things that were arranged around that time should have really produced enormous warning bells. You know, no relations being invited, the father being badly treated, not brought over in good time, not respected in any way. Well, you remember it. It's not something which. The goodwill, by the way, was huge. The goodwill was huge at that time. And yet, if you look at the things that were going on in the background, they were pretty disagreeable. So, I mean,
the thing that annoyed me was her insistence that she walk through the nave on her own to be picked up at the screen by her future father-in-law. You walk into a church on the arm of, if it's not your dad, with somebody else who's going to stand in, and the person standing in was then the Prince of Wales, and she should have walked the full length with him and not sort of done this sort of, I'm a Hollywood star, look at me.
Well, absolutely right. It's absolutely fascinating. I mean, look at what actually happened. She left Cliveden with her mother in the car. Her mother got out of the car. She then drove down to the steps of St. George's Chapel. She did her Julie Andrews Sound of Music solitary march up to the organ loft. At which point she had tricked, in a way, her future father-in-law, the Prince of Wales at the time, to do that. And that's presumably very good optics. I mean, that also, by the way, you can be certain was not the first solution that was made. That must have been the result of mega arguments, of every possible kind. I want this, you can't have that, etc., etc. Don't you think?
And then the audacity to say in Oprah, oh, well, people don't know this, but we got married 3 days beforehand in the backyard.
Yes, I mean that was absolutely crazy. In which case, the other marriage wasn't valid. I mean, because the whole thing was crazy. And then, of course, forget not the bishop who hogged the scene. But of course, I suppose I shouldn't be mean to him because I believe his mother spoke to him over the divide and said, "Son, go on." But the poor woman who was about to uh, conduct the gospel choir was standing on high heels, about sort of 4 inches high, for 8 minutes, waiting until he finally lost steam and sat down. I
It took
mean,
him a long time to lose steam as well.
Yeah.
oh,
And
goodness
then
me.
the Zara laughing laughing in the audience. I mean, I think Catherine shot a look at Queen Camilla at one point, the Duchess of Cornwall at the time, but the reaction from the inability for this crew, this very stoic crew, to not be able to contain themselves is historically one of the greatest pieces of television I've ever seen.
And
Well, I
they
think
invited somebody to preach. They didn't even know him.
Ah,
no. And they should have been a bit more careful, actually, though, because when there are cameras around, they will pick up on these things. It was unfortunate, I think. But I mean, we rewatched it recently, and I mean, if you, I mean, honestly,
Dickie, I want to pick your brain for 1 second because someone reached out
There's
to
not
me
much left.
and someone reached out to me and said, because the Meghan's camp is saying, no, this is fine that we've lost this show. Meghan's just going to focus on as ever. And somebody reached out to me and they said, how could she do that? Like, how could she maintain this brand? And I said, honestly, I think she needs to allow other people to be the face of it if she wants it to survive. Go find some organic luxury mom bloggers. And I say luxury because who the hell has $30 to spend on honey? But go find some mom bloggers, go find some natural organic influencers and throw videos of them up there playing in her stuff. But I just think Meghan's brand is so tainted that, and I also said, go find somebody from the Rachel Ray or the Martha Stewart ecosystem and bring them on because Harry and Meghan have absolutely zero business running a business. But do you think that Meghan could continue to maintain this brand and be the face of it? Or do you think that people are just fed up and they should bring in some fresh blood?
I believe people are fed up. People have peeled away the veneer. The veneer is very thin. There's not much to it. And they've seen what's underneath it. And if she wants a product to succeed, then she should not be the face of it. Other people should front it. She has devalued the currency. She was the currency. The title was the currency. In fact, Harry was the currency. She devalued the whole thing. And Harry has done his sort of shillings worth exactly the same. And if they want to succeed, they need to do something with substance to it, and preferably not something flighty like sprinkles on food and teaching people how to pack a suitcase. Do something substantial.
And
Get
booze,
off television.
alcohol. Like this is
Yeah.
this is the way forward. Alcohol. Hugo, last question to you. You've covered Hollywood a lot throughout your life. Oversaturation is real. Oversaturation can be a problem, and that's really what I see with the Harry and Meghan brand.
Well, I think so. I mean, as we've discussed on many occasions in the past, they always have to reinvent themselves because they come up with different schemes and none of them work. So, they're pretty clever at sort of jumping on the next bandwagon that comes along. But of course, it can't go on forever. As you say, oversaturation. There will come a point, the sooner it comes, the better, frankly, when people will just get so fed up and they really won't want to know what's going on at all. And then I think they need to be a bit careful because the king has shown his teeth in what he can do to members of his family that he feels haven't upheld the traditions that he wants. I mean, he can strip them of titles, and I would have said there was a pretty good argument for him doing that for them. I don't know whether you agree or
Well,
not.
the Netflix wagons have ground to a halt, and if Netflix don't want them, who does?
Mm. It's true. And Hugo, is it your understanding that Frogmore being stripped of Frogmore was a punishment for their behavior, or was that more of a monetary, let's be reasonable with our financial situation, optics situation?
Well, they weren't using it, were they? I mean, they were, I mean, it was just sitting there. So, I mean, they'd spent a lot of money on Frogmore Cottage doing it up and putting barriers all around it and sort of a lot of security also down the long walk and things. No, I don't think that was anything to do with it at all, frankly. I mean,
Mm,
they're not there. They're in Montecito,
mm.
where they're likely to remain, I suspect.
We will have to wait and see, but I don't think that they have a lot of offers to go elsewhere, except for that Toronto Hilton, Dickie, where Rent a Prince Harry will show up and snap a picture with you if the price is right. Dickie, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, just lovely to see you and lovely to work with Hugo again.
Oh, I know.
Well,
My
always
dream
enjoyed working
team.
with Dickie. I think the first time we did an interview together was probably around the time of the Charles and Diana wedding, I think, around about 1981. Would you think
Yes,
that's right?
that is about right. You did produce a
LBC.
book, and I did interview you about the book.
That's the thing.
Oh, wow. How
And
sweet.
I think I still have it on my bookshelf.
Well,
Oh
I've got
my
a copy
God.
on my bookshelf too.
I'd love to
And,
see
and
that.
and it's autographed. So when your book on the Queen comes out, then my book on Charles and Diana at the wedding will be worth something because it's got your signature in it.
Try and find an unsigned copy.
I love it. I love it. All right. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Hugo Vickers, pleasure to see you. We can't wait for your Queen book. Dickie Arbiter, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see you both again very soon.